Hi, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to use relaxed 4-8 hypnosis breathing to shift yourself out and away from a panic attack. Okay, I'm Orla Kirby, I'm a therapist and I specialise in helping people to move themselves away from severe anxiety and or OCD. So this relaxed hypnosis breathing that I'm going to be talking to you about, I recommend people using this as part of a kind of 3-part method for shifting themselves away from a panic attack, right? And you can see about the other elements either in the next 2 videos in this series where there's detailed information on the other 2 elements, or if you go back to the beginning of this series or this playlist, you'll get a kind of an overview of the whole method working together, right? So what I'm not suggesting is to recognise, oh, I'm in a panic attack, and immediately start using the 4-8 breathing, because that probably would be too much of a challenge. Maybe not. If you're very, very practiced in the 4-8 breathing, that might be possible for you, and everyone is different after all, so, who am I to say? However, for a lot of people, it's going to be very hard to go from the extremely high level of panic and anxiety that's happening in a panic attack to very relaxed and calm, flowing, slow hypnotic breathing, right? It's almost like there's just too much of a jump. So that's why generally I work with people to kind of put in the box breathing as a bit of an in-between step. And if you want to know what the box breathing is, there's going to be a whole other video on just really deeply explaining what that is and how that works. So the 4-8 breathing, how do I learn that then? The reason I'm talking about this one first, even though I actually do it second within this method for shifting away from panic attacks, is because this is the one that I would want people to learn first and to practice first and to get really great at initially, because that's going to make it easier to learn the box breathing than if you tried to do it the other way around. So first step with practicing this technique is to really relax your whole body, right? You want to put yourself in a deeply physically relaxed state. The easiest way to do that probably is to lie down flat on your back, but you can also do it sitting down, you can even do it standing, but you want to feel relaxed and comfortable and easy. So generally, if it's physically possible for you to do so, I'd recommend lying flat on your back with your arms out and your hands facing up, your legs slightly apart. You're just very, very kind of easy and relaxed. And then you go through a progressive relaxation where you think about relaxing all the different muscles around your face and head, and you work your way down your body, kind of relaxing deeply as you go. And there's different ways into this imaginatively. If you'd like more help with how to do this really deep physical relaxation, if you go to orlakirby.com /learn to meditate, there's more detail there about this progressive relaxation and different ways of doing this if you're more visual or you're more auditory or you're more kinesthetic, right? But just very briefly, for some people it might work to imagine being surrounded in golden light and work your way, and the light is helping each part of you to relax. Or other people might more think about the feeling of warmth, or almost imagining like being in a warm bath maybe, right? Or a sauna, and that feeling of warmth, like when you sink into a bath and your body just automatically relaxes in response. That might be a helpful idea. Or for some people, they might want to think of a favourite sound, like the sound of waves, brushing up against them. And that's helping all of these muscles to relax, and then all of these muscles to relax, and it helps their shoulders to relax. So sound could be another way in. Whatever way you're connecting with this, you want to gradually relax your body so that you get really floppy, kind of almost like ragdoll floppy is how I describe this, right? So really so if you think of this as like tense, right? We just want you but like all of you. So sometimes when I work with people when they're practicing this breath and they might have training as a dancer, say, or like athletic training, or, they've practiced breathing before in a kind of a setting where they have to be kind of alert. In this hypnosis breathing, certainly the way that I teach it, it is more that we're going for this just complete floppiness, right? Like you were a ragdoll and now you're hung up and you're just totally limp and loose. Or if you think of someone who, and I know that for some people, drinking can be a problematic thing, right? So not to be disrespectful to anyone at all, but if you think of someone who's very drunk, right? If you've ever supported a friend who's very, very or a very sleepy child, right? It's that kind of just very heavy weight of someone who's let go of their muscles. That's what we're going for here, right? So I stress that because that's really important, to let your body move the way that it needs to move, is for most of your body to be really super relaxed, right? The next stage is to learn how to really, really relax your face, your mouth, your nose, your jaw, in particular, this whole area. It's particularly important for the breathing. And this is because you're going to be breathing in through your nose and out through your nose, but in like a really particular way, right? So if you hear a lot of kind of sucking and blowing going on, right? Right? No, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it might be less than that. But if you can hear that kind of noise coming from the nose, right? Like, that's automatically what a lot of people do if they're asked to take a deep breath, right? Right? And it's not, well, this is terrible, or this does anything appalling, right? And that kind of deep breathing, where you're using your nose in that way, is also calming, right? And with all of this, you kind of want to just be gradually working on shifting. Sometimes you might be more focusing on one element, and sometimes you might be more focusing on another element, and that's fine, right? So like a little bit like with learning to swim or learning to play tennis, you might get one bit of it really well, and then the other bit kind of slips, It's hard to do all of these things at once, and that's perfectly natural. Like, anyone learning this breathing technique would find it quite hard if they didn't have loads of practice beforehand to do all of these things at the same time. So be really patient and gentle with yourself. It is natural for this to take quite a while to learn, right? So the sound that you're actually going for, if your face is really super relaxed, is for your nose to be just so relaxed. All of the muscles on your cheeks and everything, your whole face is so relaxed that it's a different kind of sound, right? It's more like this. You can probably tell that's really different to, this is the other way. Now, no air is going in and out of my mouth. My mouth is open because I'm relaxing my mouth and my face and my jaw, so my mouth will be open, but no air is going in or out. The air is definitely going in and out of my nose, but my nose isn't really moving, right? And not using my nose to like draw in the air, suck it in or blow it out, right? My nose isn't doing anything. The air is being pulled in from much higher up and further back, right? Some people might experience this as kind of almost like it's being pulled in from up here. If you imagine you're pulling the air from like here and backwards, almost between your eyes. Or some people will more just feel it against the back of their throat, right? The roof of their mouth and the back of their throat. Okay. And what helps getting into this is to really, really relax your face, right? Because it's almost like if your face is super, super relaxed, you just couldn't do this. And right? You couldn't, because that would mean kind of unrelaxing your face a bit in order to do that, right? In order for your nose to be more active in that way. The reason for doing this is that it actually just is a more once you get the hang of it, it might not feel immediately more relaxing, right? You might think, oh, well, this is a hassle, and actually feels more relaxing to me to do, and that that feels more natural. That might be what you're used to doing. However, once you really learn this, it's going to allow you to feel more peaceful as you're breathing. Partly because your face is able to be more at rest while you're doing it, right? You're able to be in a more relaxed state physically and mentally. It's a very different way of breathing that eventually, once you practice it, is going to feel very, very deeply calming. So it's worth learning. Okay. Then the next part is to be breathing in for 4 seconds and breathing out for 8 seconds. Now, I would advise when you're learning this to practice using a clock, a ticking clock, or a metronome, but something that actually really tells you where the seconds are. Because for most of us, we don't necessarily have a very clear sense in our minds of how long a second is, right? And we might think we do, but then actually be counting slower or counting faster. So, I could be thinking I'm practicing slow breathing, and actually I'm breathing like much quicker than I think I am, right? I would definitely have a metronome that you can hear, or you can have a metronome. I have a metronome app on my phone called Metronome Beats. Not an ad for them. There's various other metronome apps. There's also something lovely about actually having kind of a physical object too. So just, try out what works for you. A ticking clock can work well, so can a metronome, right? And you are just starting with what feels doable for you. So if 4/8 feels impossible at the beginning, then just start with something that is easier than that, right? So you can absolutely start with 4/4, right? And then build up to in for 4, out for 6, and then build up to in for 4, out for 8, right? Is probably better to learn an in for 4, out for breath, and do that excellently, right? And follow all these other parts. Be able to have your face relaxed, breathing through your nose in this special way, like all the other parts that I'm going to talk about. It's better to do a 4/4 breath really evenly and peacefully and beautifully, and so that it feels great, and then shift it slightly to even in for 4, out for 5, and then in for 4, out for 6, and so on. That's better to work up gradually than really just go for the in for 4, out for 8 from the beginning, but then really struggle to do that in a way that feels comfortable, right? If the in for 4, out for 8 feels great straight away, then absolutely go with that, right? Everyone's different. If, on the other hand, in for 4, out for 4 feels too challenging, then I would start off with in for 3 seconds, out for 3 seconds, right? That's absolutely fine. There's always going to be a smaller increment, right? So with anything that I'm suggesting, and I should probably put a note at the beginning of this whole series, really, if anything feels really awful or really, just stop straight away, right? Hopefully that's clear in and of itself. However, it's okay for things to just feel like a bit annoying or not that relaxing, or, well, I think, breathing in a different kind of way is more relaxing. It's okay to stick with it a bit if it's just feeling a bit like, this is all just a bit frustrating or something, right? That's actually okay, because this breath I wouldn't necessarily expect this breath to feel super relaxing for everyone the first time you're doing it, or even the third or fourth time or fifth time. As you're learning it, because it is hard to learn, it can feel frustrating. It can feel not particularly relaxing, or like you're having to really concentrate on doing all these things and doing them all at the same time. And that's fine. Once you really learn it and you can do them easily all at the same time, and it comes naturally to you, that's when it's going to feel super, super peaceful and relaxing, right? And it's worth it. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's worth it feeling a bit awkward or a bit annoying or a bit frustrating. It's worth going through all of that, because then once you learn it, it's going to feel super, super deeply peaceful and relaxing and wonderful. Okay, so in for 4, out for 8 is what you're going for, right? Eventually, you can build up slowly. That's fine. Then in terms of how you're moving your body as you're breathing, you want to be moving your chest and tummy together, right? So imagine if you're lying on your back, you might want to get someone to watch you, or do it with a mirror beside you, but you want to be like this, right? Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I'm not counting this. There's not the timing necessarily, but what I'm saying is that as you're breathing in, your chest and tummy move up together. And as you're breathing out, your chest and tummy sink down together, right? And what you see sometimes if people are practicing deep breathing for the first time is that they might be, kind of moving their chest and tummy not in sync with each other, or they might be just more breathing from their chest or more breathing from their tummy, and we want both moving together. You might also have learned a different breathing technique where you're taught to just more use your tummy, for example. So there's loads of different breathing techniques, and they have different purposes, and I'm not saying this is the best one in the world or whatever. However, in this particular breathing technique, the approach is to use your chest and tummy. And this is in order to create the greatest amount of movement, the greatest amount of space, to allow in the greatest amount of oxygen, because this is a breath where you're bringing a lot of oxygen into your body in order for the kind of restorative, peaceful, deeply calming benefits of that, right? Again, if that's very difficult for you for some physical reason, just moving your belly is another way to do this, right? If you learn all the other parts and you move your belly and you don't move your chest that much, just a little bit, that's still going to be deeply calming, right? I would encourage you towards incorporating your chest if that's possible, to work towards that. However, it's never a kind of a, either or, you're ruining it if you're not doing this one bit. I'm teaching you like an ideal way of doing this breath. However, you can make your own adaptation, and particularly if you have certain physical restrictions, that might be a good idea for you, or it might at least be a good idea at first, right? Okay, so the last part is to be working towards your breath becoming seamless and flowing. So with this, I mean that you're not holding your breath, right? You're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're breathing in, you're breathing out. And sometimes a good way to imagine this is almost like it's like a circle, right? So rather than it being breathing in and then breathing out, and breathing in and breathing out, right? And it seeming quite kind of, like that, like you have to stop breathing in and then you start breathing out. It's a different approach where you're actually breathing in and you're turning, you're breathing out, you're breathing in, you're breathing out, and you're just seamlessly flowing from one to the other, right? So almost rather than thinking, oh, okay, I need to stop breathing in and now I'm going to start breathing out, you want to just be breathing in, start breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. You're always beginning something rather than stopping something, right? And you don't have to have completely emptied your lungs before you breathe in, and you don't have to completely got to the top of your breath before you breathe out. Particularly when you're learning, that might make it trickier on you, right? So, that kind of being able to cycle without pausing is really key. And in terms of it being flowing, it's quite good to keep your in-breath at the same rate the whole way and to keep your out-breath at the same rate the whole way, right? So by that I mean, we don't want you kind of breathing in loads and then breathing a little bit at the top, right? Or what's more common is people breathe out a lot and then they're trying to hit that 8 and then they're breathing out quite slowly right at the end, right? So they might go and then stop and kind of go. Don't know if you can really see what I'm doing on the video, but they might really slow down at the end, right? So they're almost like, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3. Oh, I've got to the end. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that last little bit of the count, they're not. You could see if you were watching them, they're not moving that much. They're not quite holding their breath, but they're breathing out very slowly because they're trying to get to that count at the end, right? And we would want it to more look, when you're doing the 4-8, like in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, as in half, when you get halfway through the seconds, you're also halfway through your out breath. Yeah, and the same thing on the way in. That's part of what makes it flowing. That just feels more calming and more reassuring. You're not having to put strain or stress in your body for like stopping or holding or, going more slow and then speeding up. It just feels easier and more peaceful, right? Okay, so that's about the counting and the moving your chest and tummy together. And a good way is to get like a friend or a housemate or your partner or whoever to watch you and just see, are your chest and tummy out of sync? Are you moving your tummy more, your chest more? Because that can be hard to be physically aware of yourself. Then the last two things to mention are that this is a really great breath for imagining stuff, and I'll go into more detail in another video on what kinds of things you could imagine. It's a great video, great breath to be doing for imagining stuff really richly, and also that to learn this breath really fully, it's a great idea to practice it every day, right? 10 minutes is enough, right? If you could practice every day for 10 minutes, that is enough to learn this breath excellently, right? If you practiced every other day, it might just take you a lot longer, right? And if you practice once a week, it would be maybe almost impossible to learn this really fully and really well. It's just because of the amount of kind of feedback and shifting you're doing in your mind and your body. We learn something like this best when we're practicing again and again and again and again, right? That's what I'd really recommend, is to practice every day for 10 minutes. If you can practice for 20 minutes, even better, right? But rather than trying to do it like for ages on one day and then not for a while, the best approach here is to practice every day for 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So that's all I have to say, I think, about the 4-8 breathing. The next video is going to be about box breathing, and how you can learn that once you've learned this, and then combine the two together to shift yourself away from panic attacks. So I'll see you in the next video.